Hi, it's Zubble1975 and welcome to Elite Dangerous on the Legacy version on Xbox. Now, today, the subject is going to get political. Well, not really political, but it's going to discuss matters of in real life nature. So it's not a pure gaming video, so if you're not interested in that sort of thing, please click away. What I'm going to be talking about is the nanny state. Now, whether it be the UK, EU, UN, Ireland, Canada, Australia, our governments seem to be going a more authoritarian route and trying to have a bigger impact on our lives. This is through various laws and legislation. In fact, in the UK recently, I literally looked around and realised that something had happened that was quite drastic. Something had shifted in the mood and the Overton window, and yeah, I really felt like this was me waking up in the near future.
Just a cigarette, any cigarette.
Smoking is not good for you. It has been deemed that anything not good for you is bad, hence illegal. Alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
Are you shitting me?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What the hell is that?
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit.
Bad language, chocolate, gasoline, uneducational toys, and anything spicy.
Now, before I go any further, none of the information I'm giving out should be taken as fact. None of the information I'm giving out should be taken as anything other than the conjecture of a 50-year-old idiot who plays video games. So with that out of the way, so I can't get prosecuted for misinformation, recently the UK government took the step of banning certain food items from being sold in special offers. The ban affects any foods deemed unhealthy. So you can't have unlimited refill Coca-Cola if you go to a restaurant, or I read somewhere that you literally can't have unlimited refill hot chocolate in a certain pub chain. Yeah, it's literally buy one get one free offers, and all unlimited refill offers are banned on unhealthy foods. Also, they've banned all unhealthy food advertising until it's after like 9 PM at night on terrestrial television. Not that anyone watches terrestrial television anymore. And this is another step in the long line of weird rules to have more of a say in what we do and how we live. Now, one of the big steps lately has been the idea that the UK want to introduce digital ID. Now, they've originally said it's because of illegal immigration and to stop illegal migrants working and to better control and regulate work in the UK. I don't see how. It makes no difference. People illegally working and doing things illegal tend to not obey laws and tend to carry on doing illegal things. So changing a law and making it illegal to not have an ID card just means they're breaking another law, which they're already breaking by working, and they're already breaking by coming here illegally. So yeah, this reasoning doesn't make sense. And this is where we're going to get into some conjecture. Now, obviously, none of this is factual information. It shouldn't be taken as such. But there's a lot of conjecture I have with it. I mean, currently the UK government are trying to persuade Apple and a few other companies to offer backdoors into encrypted messaging apps. Now, if my friend wanted to read my encrypted messages and I said no, and then he said, "Oh, do you want to download this app I've created and test it out for me?" and I found it had a keylogger and like some snooping software in it, I'd be very suspicious. But I wouldn't download an app from someone who's actively trying to get access to my my encrypted messages without being a little distrustful. Also, this whole thing about it being for illegal immigrants makes no sense. We already have a national insurance number. We already have to show photo ID, either a passport or a driving license when we apply for a job. We already have to do a right to work form. We already have to prove residency. There's all sorts of checks we have to go through before starting a job. So a digital ID is not going to make any difference. And the problem is, once you give a government digital ID becomes the solution for many problems. Monitor how long your people are playing on video games for. Why make them sign into the internet when they want to use it on digital ID, and it will monitor how much time they spend playing games. Want to limit their carbon emissions. That's fine. Put a tracker on their digital ID, which monitors how they travel, when they travel, where they travel, if they go abroad, how often they go abroad, what they do, where they shop, what food they buy. It's very conceivable this would have massive potential to become a huge part of our lives. Plus, I can't take anything serious when it comes from Keir Starmer, because he reminds me of this dude, even though that's being really unkind to Beaker, because Beaker was way more articulate and intelligent than Keir Starmer appears to be. Now, I'm not particularly a big fan of big government and big overreach. I also think there's inherent dangers with a digital ID. The obvious one being data leakage. He's currently touting that the Indian scheme is a great thing. However, like, hundreds of thousands of Indians have had their personal identity leaked over the internet since they brought in digital ID, and our government have a nasty habit of leaving, discs on trains, files on benches. There was one guy that was literally binning top secret information into a bin in the park where he was feeding the pigeons. I kid you not, that's a real story. And we already know from Discord that there's been a data leak, which the hackers are claiming is much bigger than Discord are claiming it is. So we don't know in general how big the leak was. But basically anyone who had to appeal their age verification because they failed the first time seems to have had their data leaked by the company they appealed to, which is just marvellous. Now, the other thing I'd see, there's major issues with the implementation. A lot of issues around mobile phone companies, because if this is going to be a digital app on a mobile phone, that means everyone in the UK has to own a smartphone that can run it. Now that immediately puts out of business any company that does those phones for the elderly that are really simple. It also means that we all have to have smartphones with data plans, which of course won't mean that those nice people in mobile phone companies don't jack up their data rates or prices. And then there's another issue, the practicality of data entry when it comes to that scale of information. You think of all the records for all the people in the country, and then you think of the error rate, which falls between 1 and 5%. Even if it's at 1%, right? That's one mistake every 100 characters, and that may be something crucial, like your blood type, or whether you're allergic to penicillin, yes or no, and they've put in the wrong one. Just think about the level of errors that would be in the thing. And also, going back to the mobile phone thing, to get a good data plan and a good contract, you have to have good credit rating. If you do not have good credit rating, you cannot get a mobile phone contract in the UK. You end up on pay-as-you-go deals, which are notoriously expensive for data. So this will really, really unfairly penalise poor people for being poor and charge them more to run a phone that has their digital ID on than other people. Now, these aren't things that particularly affect me. I am poor, but I'm not. I've got a good credit rating and the rest of it. However, it's just unfairness and unfairness wrapped in unfairness. Also, the British people already had their say on IDs. After the war, we had IDs up until the 50s, and then we protested and we got rid of them. And they literally had old people burning their IDs in the street and protesting. It was epic. The British people don't rally around things very often. I often, say that the French are much better at civil disobedience than the British. The British tend to complain quietly and write stern letters to their MPs, whereas the French will get out on the streets. It takes a lot for the Brits to get really up in arms about something, but I feel digital ID is something that has immediately galvanised the left and the right. It's not a right-left issue, because if you think it is, you're wrong, because the government's in now you might disagree with, but you're not giving them digital ID, you're giving them and any future government in your lifetime those digital IDs. Now, this doesn't affect me too much, because let's face it, what am I looking at? Maybe the next 20 years, if I'm lucky, 25, if I'm very lucky. So I just have to keep them out for a while. But yeah, if I was living in the UK, I'd be very concerned about this authoritarian overreach, because if a government knows everything about you, they already do. They have records, they have access to those records, but at the moment they're all decentralized, they're all over the place, and that means that like 8 or 9 different things have to be hacked for someone to get a full picture of your life. Digital ID means they have to hack one place, and when it comes to digital security, it's as secure as the biggest idiot that works at the place. Hackers will tell you social engineering is way easier than actually trying to get around the security and the systems of security. Also, I'm going to teach you a little thing here. This guy is a legend and should be celebrated. Now, many of you won't know who he is, many of you will have never heard the name. However, he is a guy that should have a movie made about him, and he should be canonized. Thanks to him, over 10,000 Jews were saved from the Holocaust. He is a French dude, that obviously lived during World War II. Now, he worked for the French resistance. He was embedded within the government when the Nazis took over, and he is the guy that sabotaged the Nazis' efforts to successfully take censuses. Now, one of the things the Nazis did very well was they gathered information on people that they ruled over, whether that be occupied territories or Germany itself. They kept meticulous records, and they really did count everything, and they really did work hard. They actually had IBM computers, yes, IBM computers, stored at different locations in underground bunkers to protect them from air raids, because they were vital to their efforts. I would recommend you read this book, it's amazing. These were the punch card computers, and the censuses were done on punch cards. And the census data was really meticulous, and especially took note of people's religion and locations. So therefore they used the census data to effectively and easily round up the Jews. What René did was sabotage that collection network. He sabotaged the machines, he sabotaged the cards, he did absolutely everything to stop them collecting that data. He is widely regarded as the first ever white hat hacker, which I'm really struggling to say that phrase, and the first ever ethical hacker. What he did is phenomenal. This is from his Wikipedia. He was absolutely and utterly influential, and helped save tens of thousands of Jews. Putting Oscar Schindler to shame, risking his own life day after day after day, working inside the belly of the beast, inside bureaucracy in France, and sabotaging it from within. Just to say he put his life on the line daily is an understatement. This was a guy that really, he knew probably that he wasn't going to make it out, but he was doing stuff to help other people see sunsets of the future. And we should think about his sacrifice when we think about digital ID. We should think about his sacrifice when we think of authoritarian regimes. This is a man who literally gave his life. He died in a concentration camp in the very late stages of the war, which is really tragic. But yeah, I salute him. The guy was an absolute hero, and we should all think about him when we think about the potential for what happens when you give authoritarian regimes access to too much information about you. It's horrific. It's the worst. There's nothing really you can say about it other than you're literally trusting all the future governments of your lifetime not to abuse all that information and data they have on you in one place, and to protect it securely. And you're willing to sacrifice that for a bit of security and convenience? I don't think you should. I think this is something we should be united against. It's not a right-left issue. It can be abused by either the right or the left. We have seen governments of both the right and the left abuse these sort of things in the past. And we should be very aware of the abuses and how it can be abused. Now, I'll link to a video in the description to a lady who works for Big Brother Watch, and I would recommend going to Big Brother Watch's website and seeing what they're saying about ID cards, and they give you much more factual information than some old bloke giving you conjecture and what's in his head about it. But I am firmly against digital ID, and I think Big Brother Watch are going to be essential in the coming fight against the British government bringing in digital IDs. My main concern is once you have digital ID, it becomes the de facto solution for so many problems. Also, we've got to factor in that the UK government are currently, with the Online Safety Act, trying to breach encryption. They're currently trying to spy on our banks. They've brought in rules to spy on our bank accounts. Literally with digital ID, if you do something wrong, they could debank you in an instant. If you do something they don't like, you could find that you're put on the naughty step in some horrible way. They're also discussing bringing in a digital currency run by the Bank of England and centralised. Now, this would require a digital ID and a wallet to put that digital currency into, but then that digital currency could be limited to what you can spend it on. For example, you could have limits like you wouldn't be able to smoke, or you wouldn't be able to buy alcohol. Think of a future world where your universal basic income is paid by the central bank in digital currency with absolute restrictions on it. And like I say, this is just conjecture on my part, but they would require digital ID to move forward with that, and that's something they've been discussing for years. And like I say, the problem with digital ID that I have is it becomes the de facto solution for everything. Also, when you factor in that they are taking everyone's faces and they're using facial recognition cameras across the UK. The expansion of facial recognition and facial ID is huge. It's been a massive ongoing issue. There's been a big fight against it, a big pushback. There was a meeting in which the Met Police were challenged by privacy advocacy groups, saying that, you know, they're making the UK in a surveillance state like China, and the Met Police's response, without skipping a beat and with no sense of irony, was, well, there's not much crime in China, which I find to be an absolutely horrifying response. But I can understand where they're coming from. A world massively surveilled, where you need the government's permission to do anything or go anywhere, would be easy for them to manage and maintain and make sure you don't commit any crime. Doesn't sound like a fun world to live in. And if you don't believe me about the digital currency thing and them controlling what you spend your money on, what you can and can't spend your money on, watch this clip. This is from the Bank of England. Let me know what you think after this clip.
Money would be programmed to be released only when something happened. You could think, for example, of giving your children pocket money, but programming the money so that it couldn't be used for sweets.
When your government and the Bank of England are talking about treating you as children who have pocket money, I get really concerned. Now, like I said, this is all conjecture. None of this should be taken as fact. I have no evidence to support any of it. This is not me spreading misinformation. This is me, a human being, freely giving my opinion on stuff. I have to say all that, given the Online Safety Act and the new laws about spreading misinformation online. However, I would say to get more information and correct information, I would link you to a video from the Big Brother Watch that an interview their founder did with Winston Marshall, and I would also invite you to take a look at Big Brother Watch's website. I'll link it in the description. I think we should all be supporting them at this time. Them and the Free Speech Union will be at the forefront of the fight for our digital rights. I'm already against the Online Safety Act. To me, it's ridiculous. We have a right to privacy in the human rights legislation, and our government is currently, as far as I'm concerned, breaching that massively by surveilling us hugely. The UK is turning into a surveillance state. If you didn't know, they recently took all of our passport photographs, every British person who's got a passport photographs, and used that to build a database for facial recognition, to teach the AI on facial recognition how to recognise faces. So if you have a passport, your face is on facial recognition. How lovely. Did they tell you? Did they ask you for permission to do that? No, they just did it. And with incoming laws about speech and freedom of speech and the surveillance of every person, I'm starting to feel like this guy. And I'll leave you with this eloquent quote. So that's all. Thanks for watching.
I'm the enemy because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in the non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas drinking a banana broccoli shake singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer wiener.